Yes, I think I'd buy some chips.
Don't you hate it when you're deep in thought at the grocery store, wondering what to make for dinner, when you're suddenly interrupted by a total stranger?
Say, you're a pretty girl. You got a light?
No, sorry, I don't smoke.
You look like you're smoking to me.
Thanks.
You want to see a dead body?
Do I want to see a dead body?
All I wanted was to buy the ingredients to make a 1938 era potato au gratin recipe, and all I got was this weirdo asking me on a date.
Do you like potatoes?
Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Molly. Today I thought we'd make a potatoes au gratin recipe out of this 1938 Watkins cookbook. Watkins, I think this company's still around. I've seen extracts with a Watkins name on them, and this company talks about how they sell spices and stuff like that. So I'm fairly certain that it's the same company. What I thought was interesting about the recipe in here is that it doesn't specify any amounts for any of the ingredients. And it seems pretty basic. You basically need cold boiled potatoes, cream sauce, grated cheese, it doesn't specify what type of cheese, salt, Watkins pepper, and butter. So for the cream sauce, I had to look through the book some more, and I did find a recipe further on. It's a cream sauce for vegetables, and this recipe does give you amounts. So this is the cream sauce we'll be using for this potato recipe. What I'm going to do is I've recorded the amounts that I'm going to use for this recipe and written them down, and I will include include in the description box the original recipe, but I'll also include the amounts that I use, just so you have something to base it on if you aren't comfortable kind of coming up with just random amounts. So I've got russet potatoes, because the first thing we need are cold boiled potatoes. So I have russet potatoes. I picked 5, and they measured out to about 1 pound 10 ounces. So I just need to boil these and let them cool. And I think we're gonna start there. So I've got my potatoes. They've been boiled, sliced, and now they're cool. The recipe didn't say how long to boil them for. I think I might have boiled mine too long because they started to kind of fall apart when I was slicing them. I boiled them until I could pierce them basically all the way through with a knife, so maybe you would want to not go that far and they would hold their shape a little bit better. But the next thing we need to do is we're going to take these sliced potatoes and we're going to mix them with seasoning and the cream sauce, and then dot it with butter and put it in a buttered casserole dish. So we need to make the cream sauce. And luckily, like I said earlier, they gave us amounts for the cream sauce. In the instructions, it gives you what the amounts to use for a thin cream sauce, but I think we want the regular cream sauce because it didn't say thin. So let's get going on that. Okay, so for the cream sauce, you're going to need 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of flour, 1 cup of milk, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/8 teaspoon of paprika. And so it says to melt the butter over hot water and slowly add the flour and make a smooth paste. I'm assuming they want you to use a double boiler. I'm not going to do a double boiler because, quite frankly, I think they just take too much time. I've got this pan over about medium heat, and I've got a whisk ready, so I'm ready to go. And once this has fully melted, I'll add the flour. And it doesn't say how long to, it just says after you add the flour, it just says to blend till smooth, to a smooth paste, and then add the milk gradually. Doesn't say, I don't think you would want to, it's basically like making a roux. I don't think you would want to cook it too long to get like a really deep flavor because originally this is intended to be made over a double boiler. So I'm just gonna add my flour. I'm gonna add the milk. To stir constantly and let the mixture come to a boil. And then you're gonna simmer it a few minutes and then add the seasoning. So I'm gonna increase the heat just a bit. And now that I look at this, I'm worried that I have too many potatoes, which I never thought I'd ever say. Okay, so it looks like it's thickening up. Is it at a boil? Oh, yeah, it's boiling. And so then we just simmer a few minutes. Yeah. Turn the heat back down. There's my salt. Paprika. Okay, and I'm gonna take this off the heat. So the recipe says that we need to mix the sliced potatoes with the seasonings and the cream sauce and then layer it into a casserole dish, top it with cheese, and bake. So it doesn't say how much salt and pepper to put in there. So I'll tell you what I'm gonna use. I'm gonna use a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and then a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. I like a lot of pepper. And then, let's see. My fear is that these are gonna fall apart. I don't want mashed potatoes. So definitely don't cook your potatoes as long as because you could always bake it longer if they're not as done. All right, I'm gonna start adding the cream sauce. For the butter, I've decided to use 3 tablespoons of, this is unsalted butter. So I've got 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I think I'm supposed to mix those in now. I don't wanna mix this too much. So that's as much as I want to mix it. It says cover with cheese. Where did I put my cheese? So my casserole dish is buttered. And I'm going to take some of the potatoes out. A sharp white cheddar, I have 4 ounces. Put some of that cheese. I like a lot of cheese. I think I might try to do 3 layers. It doesn't say how many layers to do, but it probably, depends on how many potatoes you start out with, and it didn't give us that either, so. It doesn't say what temperature the oven should be at. It just says bake slowly for 30 minutes. I will probably do 350 degrees Fahrenheit because honestly, a lot of things seem to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And I've made, like scalloped potatoes before, which this is fairly similar to. And I've baked those at 350. Seems so far, now that I look at it, I think it's a pretty good sauce to potato ratio. I mean, every piece of potato is covered in sauce, but it's not swimming in sauce. And this seems to be a decent amount of cheese, so I think I guessed right on my amounts. Not bad. And it doesn't say if this is covered, but it is sure to tell us that you need to put Watkins paprika on it before you serve it. And no, I don't work for them. All right, let's get this baked.
So the potatoes au gratin is done. And I ended up cooking it probably about 30 to 45 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And then when it was done, she's always doing that. When it was done, I took the lid off and then broiled it for about 5 to 7 minutes. So just to get the top kind of nice and crispy and brown. So we are going to taste it. Okay, don't touch it. We're good. I don't need that. Thank you though. Okay, so Dan, there's your piece. And when I pulled this out of the oven, the first thing I noticed was that it was sizzling and swimming in butter. The butter that I added to the potatoes as I was mixing it with the sauce and the seasoning, that might have been too much. It was definitely sizzling in butter, which isn't a bad thing. Some days I want to sizzle in butter, but sometimes you gotta tone it back. Anyways, let's see how it tastes. It's probably hot as hell.
It's really creamy.
Yes, it's very creamy.
It's good.
It's very hot. It's hard to get a flavor because it's so hot. You definitely have a strong potato flavor.
I definitely like the baked cheese on top though.
Yeah. And I think that I got a good cream sauce to potato ratio. It's definitely creamy, but not swimming in sauce. So
Tastes really good with sour cream put on top of it too.
I left the skin of my potatoes on because it didn't specify if they should be peeled or not. And I don't typically peel my potatoes anyways because I'm a bit lazy. So, but I think that these are pretty good. Oh, you know what? The recipe says I was supposed to sprinkle Watkins paprika on this before serving.
Oh.
Well, did not do that. So don't forget your paprika. But other than that, this is pretty good. I think we'll be making this again.
Yeah.
Maybe with a little bit less butter. But definitely be making this again.
Maybe more cheese.
You think more cheese?
Yeah.
Maybe more cheese. Different types of cheese. A stronger flavored cheese might be good.
Homemade cheese.
Whoa. Whoa. We'll see about that. Alright. Anyways, you said potatoes au gratin?
Potatoes au gratin.
Well, hell, you sold me on that recipe. I'm gonna go make my own potatoes au gratin.